This is a video about the Stanley Parable. The Stanley Parable is undoubtedly one of my favorite video games of all time, which naturally leads to the question of, do I think it's fun? And to that I'd answer, not really. If anything, I'd call it entertaining. It's definitely not a game that you come back to all the time, but I think the experience of the game is really funny. There's a lot of good bits and jokes here and there, and I think it's one of the only games I've ever seen that uses non-Euclidean space gimmicks, less for confusion and more just because it's kind of funny. At the end of the day, though, it's a 3D choose-your-own-adventure walking simulator game, where once you complete all the endings, there really isn't much more to do, other than either think about your favorite ending, or just literally go outside, I guess. So, let's do that. The museum ending. The museum ending is fascinating to me because in a very swift movement, it shows the game's entire hand in a very elegant way. Quick recap of the museum ending, just in case you forgot. Before you go inside the mind control facility, there's a side exit marked Escape. If you go down that path, the narrator very clearly states that you will die if you continue.
The truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
You then die because you continued. Or rather, you should before the second narrator comes in.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator.
From there, you're placed in a museum showing early development concepts, assets, and other miscellaneous items related to the game's production, with an exit leading to a big lever, which you can turn off. Remember that? Good. You should remember anyway because of that screen at the beginning. I thought I showed you that. I blazed through those lines because I really want to emphasize these.
But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
I have to be honest, before making this video, I had always pushed escape and pressed quit to menu because that's what they said to do. So I just did it. And I never knew what happened if you just let the crusher kill you. This is it. The void. Emptiness. Let me just move this into frame. Oh, that's kind of loud. Especially after such a pause. Anyway. Now, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the majority of video games are made to be viable in single-player mode. Think about a video game, and it most likely has single-player functionality. Of course, you have your video games that are multiplayer exclusive, but I'm fairly sure that the majority of games require at least one person to play it. Not many, however, are designed for 0 players. I mean, do you know of one? The only games I can think of that come close are Conway's Game of Life and Cookie Clicker. And even then, both of those have prerequisites to make the game control itself the rest of the way through. The majority of games are not designed to run without you around. The Stanley Parable is the perfect example of this in action. Everything in the game is designed around requiring both Stanley and the narrator. Without the narrator, there's no structure, and without Stanley, no decision is ever made. They need one another, to put it simply, and everything points towards this fact being embedded in the fabric of the game itself. I mean, even deciding to stay in the broom closet for an hour still counts as a decision at the end of the day. But, well, even with meaningless decisions like the broom closet, there are only so many decisions you can make to get to an ending in the Stanley Parable. And I would argue that most of the endings of the game aren't really that good for Stanley at the end of the day. The majority of endings end with Stanley dead or in an actively horrible place. Hell, the true ending of the game takes control away from the player entirely, putting Stanley in a cutscene, while the ending with the most player freedom is intentionally bugged in a way where you can't even complete it. Stanley has no choice. His fate was determined in the moment he walked out of the office. There is no free will in the Stanley Parable, and I think the museum ending does a great job of showing that. It very clearly lays out everything in the game and goes, here, look at it. This is it. This is all the options you have. All choices you can make in this game are meaningless. You walk this way or that way, and then that's it, and then you die. And it's either that or quit. Stanley will always be the man that sits in an office and presses buttons. That's just how it is. The only way you can change the dichotomy between Stanley and his life is to quit. And nobody ever told Stanley that he could quit. Why would they?